Hello YouTube, welcome to the channel. As always, going to invite anyone looking for some one-on-one Skype sessions to reach out to me. You can always find a good email in the description of each video that I put up. Today we're going to jump right in on a really useful 1-4-5 rhythm pattern that you're going to find a lot of different styles musically that this could help with. And not only about the note selection and the way this lays on the fretboard, but also the spirit of your right hand when you play. I'm going to demonstrate it in the key of G, where we're using a 7 chord for each of the chords of the 1-4-5, the G, C, and D. So to make this have very little movement on the fretboard of the mandolin, if you haven't ever discovered this, it can really lend itself in a lot of ways if you're playing something where a hardcore bluegrass chop just really isn't working. Like if you're playing with one other instrument, like just a guitar and a mandolin, a chop is so designed to be played as part of a bluegrass groove that many times this approach rhythmically can just be more fun if you're playing in a duet setting, or if you want something to swing a little or to have more of a blues flavor. This can be very useful that way. So the positions that I'm going to use for the G chord, each one of my fingers is going to occupy a different fret on the 1 chord. And I'm playing the 3rd fret, which is a flat 7 note. That's an F note. Then I'm playing the 3rd of the chord. I'm playing a B note on the 4th fret of the G string, and then an A string note, which is a D note, at the 5th fret of the A string. Now, some of you, especially if you've watched the channel, you may have in a different video heard me describe this as a B half diminished chord, and it could be called that. But in this case, we're just going to think of it as a G7 or a dominant 7 because we have an F note instead of an F sharp. That would be the 7th note of the G scale is an F sharp. We're playing an F here. So there's no root note in the chord. We have the 3rd, the flat 7, and the 5. That's going to be our G7 chord. Now here comes the real beauty of this. For me to move from the 1 to the 4, all I have to do is move right back to this hopefully familiar shape for you, which is a C7 chord. Now look at that shape. I have the 3rd, I have the E note. It's under my index finger on the 2nd fret of the D string. It's an E note. Then I'm playing the root note of C with my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. Then I have a flat 7 note up here, which in this case is a B flat. So now my fingers are not each occupying a different fret. They're a little more crowded, and you might even feel the need to maybe move this side of your hand a little further away from the bottom of the neck to get a nice kind of spin on your hand almost. We certainly feel that if you're playing like a C and then a C7. Look how much movement is actually happening in my wrist when I make that move. So if these chords don't feel comfortable, search for a muscle memory around that shape that's going to work. And it could involve your arm, all the way from your elbow even, to make that comfortable if it isn't already. So anyway, there's our 4 chord, in this case a C7. These are going to all be 7 chords. Now to get back to the root, I could just go right back to where I started. Back to the 1 chord. Same thing, 3rd, 4th, and 5th fret. Now to move up to that 5 chord, the D7, all I have to do is move my top 2 fingers forward. So once again, I have that smaller shape. This is the exact same thing as the C7 moved up to the 4th and the 5th fret. So let me break those intervals down. The major third of the D is an F sharp note that we're playing under our index finger on the 4th fret of the D string. Then the root note of D is the 5th fret, in this case, of the A string. And then once again, the flat 7 is being played with our middle finger on the 5th fret of the G string. But in the end, what you really want to do is just hear these sounds. I'm going to demonstrate this rhythm. If you were playing like a really nice, spirited version. So you can hear the difference in the spirit of what I'm playing, and the right hand has changed so much. If you were playing, again, just jamming with one other person, rhythmically, if you were playing Foggy Mountain Special, that tune, the way that we would chop that tune, if we were playing with a rhythm guitar player, bluegrass style rhythm player that was really dividing the measure with their strum, and then a bass player that was covering like the 1 and the 3. If you, in a 4 count, the bass notes are on the 1 and the 3, the mandolin chop are on the 2 and the 4. So that chop is really, it's supposed to be a part of a groove like that. If all those other things aren't there, one other person, it could be another mandolin player, is playing a solo, this might not be the right thing to do. So in that setting, so this rhythm could be a lot more fun to play with. And you can see the simple embellishments, like a slide into that chord. Look at that nice little move. From the G7, if you just move your ring finger down 1 fret to that C sharp note, that becomes a C sharp 7. Then we can just move that whole shape down to the C7. Back to the G. Now watch this. I'm going to move up a whole step with this shape. That way I could make the same move down to the D7. So with these simple shapes of the 1, 4, 5, I begin to explore a little bit and enter myself into a world of playing more of a swing feel, that trotty kind of sound that could be fuller for one other person soloing to play with. So I think you're going to get a lot of mileage out of this approach to rhythm. The other thing that can be very useful with this, it's somewhat awkward. Let's just say if we were going to play in the key of E, if we were going to play a 3-chord rhythm pattern there, if I started here with that shape for the E7, it feels kind of weird, like to try to not play the G string. Trying to avoid that string can be really awkward for me. So here's where these shapes can flip, which is really useful. Now the 1 chord, in this case the E7, is going to be just the 6th and 7th frets. Again, I'm not occupying a different fret with all 3 fingers. This is the smaller shape. Check it out. Now to get to the 4 chord, just the 2 top fingers drop, and that becomes an A7. Back to E. Now up from there is where we would find in this case, the B7 or the 5 chord. That's going to be the 7th 8th, and 9th fret. And then I can make that same move again back to the E7. So let me demonstrate that, just strumming some rhythm. 1, 4, 5. In this case, E, A, and B. So we can hear the blues in that. So practice it like that. Play around over the 1, 4, 5. Just improvise, then go back and practice your rhythm. It's a great practice habit. So this is where we've watched those shapes flip-flop. Now the 1 chord is the smaller shape. The 4 and the 5 are the bigger ones. So I know that was a little quicker run through on that particular scenario with the 1 chord being smaller. Go back to the front of the video, watch the G part and really get that under your fingers. And then I think everything will click, and you could use this in any root chord that you needed to play out of to get to a 1, 4, 5 that's going to provide a different feel musically. So I hope this helps. Maybe it'll send you in a direction musically that you never thought you'd find yourself interested in. I hope it does.